Was it in vain? Was their sacrifice, the death of loved ones, in vain? It's a question that always hovers. I heard Israel's Defense Minister Amir Peretz ask poignantly in one of the many addresses given by the nation's leaders as Israelis marked their annual Memorial Day for the nations fallen in battle. A solemn day tellingly observed on the eve of the ushering in of the festivities of the Independence Day celebrations. It's good that we continue to ask that question all the time, added the Defence Minister. Otherwise, how could we look the bereaved families in the eye? Peretz noted also that the last war in Lebanon evoked more than ever the feeling for many soldiers, as for their families, as for the nation as a whole, the notion that Israel's battles are really a battle for home. So close literally to home was last year's war. As the painful questions over the wisdom and the conduct of that war continue to reverberate, that further fuels the ever-present question, said Amir Peretz. The question that every single day the people of Israel must ask themselves, can war and can the sacrifices that are called for in war be avoided? Israel's adversaries need know, said the Defence Minister, that Israel will never flinch from doing what has to be done to ensure the nation's security, even if that requires military action or even going to war. But, he repeated, we can only be sure about committing to military action just as we can only handle the pain of war if we don't flinch from the other side of the equation, the need to keep testing ourselves with the question, are we doing enough to try to bring peace? Or in Peretz's promise, to be sure to leave no stone unturned in the search for peace. As Israel enters the 60th year of its existence, that is an existential question, and it must go beyond whether all the right-sounding declarations, such as those made by Amir Peretz this Independence Day, are indeed enough. Take the response to the Arab initiative known as the Saudi Plan for Middle East Peace, which the Arab League as a whole has endorsed. The way in which it is presented, the Arabs are offering a two-pronged approach. Tactical conditions to be met by Israel in return for the opening of peace negotiations with the whole Arab world, not just with the Palestinians, and beyond that, strategic conditions which Israel needs to meet to achieve the establishment of full relations with the Arab world, including full normalization of relations. In truth, the conditions may not be easy, as Arab League Secretary-General Amr Moussa defined them. There is no normalization free of charge, he said, but the Arabs are prepared to enter into a final peace process and to regard the Arab-Israel conflict as a thing of the past, if, in his phrase, we carry out and they carry out our mutual obligations. Here, noted one of the best Middle East analysts in the business, Tzvi Barel, here at last are the explicit words, the end of the conflict. True, noted Barel, the end of the conflict does not mean that every last member of every street gang in Gaza will no longer seek to harm Israelis, or that Hassan Nasrallah, the Hezbollah chief, will be ready to kiss the cheek of Dalia Yitzhak, Israel's acting state president, or that the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt will want to host Avigdor Lieberman, the ultra-nationalist Israeli cabinet minister, at the pyramids. But such groups, Barel points out, would be beyond the Arab consensus and would no longer be able to bask in a pan-Arab nationalist stance. Perhaps, went on Barel, the panic that seems to be choking our Prime Minister stems from the fact that Israel has never before had to face this situation, a situation where there is an Arab initiative, combined Arab mediators, and an Arab vision of a full and comprehensive peace, and what's more, of rapprochement, not only with the confrontation states, but also with history. They are knocking on Israel's door, but nobody is at home, he concludes. Israel is indeed presently preoccupied with whether or not and how to respond to a serious provocation from Hamas. That provocation took the form of a fierce renewal of rocket attacks from Gaza into southern Israel on Independence Day. At an emergency meeting on Wednesday, Prime Minister Ehud Olmert and his top security chiefs rejected calls for a major ground offensive into Gaza. A formal statement said that Israel will not hesitate to take harsh steps against those who try to violate our sovereignty by firing rockets into our territory or by attempting to harm soldiers and other means. But, said further a spokeswoman for Prime Minister Olmert, no operation has been planned. The government decided to leave all options open. And well-placed government sources say that for now, Israel will limit its response to Hamas to pinpoint operations that are aimed at halting the rocket fire and curbing other threats by the militant Islamists. Not all agree that this decision to give the 5-month semi-ceasefire another chance to continue is a wise one, given the fact that there have been repeated warnings by Israeli military officials that Hamas is using the lull to smuggle large amounts of weapons into Gaza, and shows no sign of easing up on its provocative position that it will never ever accept Israel. But even if the jury is out on what should be done in respect of this immediate challenge, that, it seems, in no way ought to relieve the government from the responsibility of continuing to grapple with that seminal question posed by Amir Peretz on Independence Day, that if the pain of the sacrifices made in war are not to be in vain, then Israelis must know that the search for peace is unending, always intense, always true. Actually, I'd say more than that. The more immediate the threat, the more real the attempt to draw Israel into further military confrontation, as some in Hamas undoubtedly want to do, the more intense should be the efforts to take Israel out of the perpetual conflict and to look for ways to make that magical phrase, end of conflict, a reality. Israel owes it to itself not only to assess every day, every opportunity, to explore whether there is a genuine possibility of achieving that goal. It's critical so that the question about future sacrifices, whether future pain can be avoided, may no longer need to be asked at all, and so that Israelis, and not only their leaders, can look at themselves and at the bereaved families, and look at them squarely in the eye next Independence Day and say, indeed, we did explore every avenue that might lead towards peace and towards making the threat of war genuinely a thing of the past.